Hey guys, what's up, this is Swift here, and today I'll be doing an unboxing of another router. This time around is again from TP-Link. The previous one that I did was actually the Netgear Nighthawk, right? The Nighthawk X8 or X6, whichever is the flagship one from Netgear themselves. And prior to that, I did a router from TP-Link, the Chinese variant of the Archer C7, I believe. The model number was called WDR7500. Not too sure about that, cannot remember already. But this time around, I've been sent the latest flagship device from TP-Link, which is the Archer C3200. Of course, the 3200 actually stands for the AC3200 here. The tri-band, two bands of wireless AC, 1200 megabits per second, as well as the 800 plus thing. 800 plus to, I can't remember already. We'll take a look at this thing later. So anyway, this is the flagship device, flagship router from TP-Link. Of course, for those of you who are looking for a value for money kind of purchase, TP-Link is always the brand to look for. They have been selling a lot of stuff at really budget price and considering the performance, it is really value for money. So how exactly this will perform, I would not know until I tried it out. Of course, if you're looking for a very technical review or technical kind of analysis of this router, I unfortunately do not have the expertise or the tools to do so. What I will be able to give you though is a comparison with my current router, which is the Netgear Nighthawk X8, I believe. So that will be a very good comparison and point of to judge, right, whether this is actually worth it. Because from what I'm aware of, this is about $70 to $100 cheaper than most of the other flagship that provide such specifications, right? Like for example, the Nighthawk X8 cost about $399. This was retailing at about 300 Singapore dollars. I'm not too sure. I will put the links to the Amazon product links if they are available below in the description. So anyway, let's take a look at the packaging. See, as usual, all the different cool icons to tell you how great their router is. There we go. Tri-band, smart connect technology, and 6 external antennas. Now, when I first look at this, it actually reminded me of the router I have. It looks really similar, right? We'll take a look once we unbox it and see how it actually look in the product itself, rather than just from the pictures. So here are even more pictures, more flashy pictures. So yeah, I was talking about, right, 1300, not 1200, 1300 5 gigahertz bands. We have 2 of that, and then we have also a 600 megabit per second band, 2.4 gigahertz for your older devices, so that it won't clog up the network, right? So of course, here is a chart telling you that of course you pay more, you get the best, right? Of course, that's self-explanatory. So tri-band with smart connect. So basically, they will help you to they judge which device should get which band and so on and so forth. Alright, so let's just take a look at what's inside. Again, the packaging is pretty much similar to the last time that I unboxed it. It's very eco-friendly kind of thing, very simplistic. So we have the router here. We'll just put that aside first. And then we have some menus. This is just a licensing note. We have a quick start guide, which we do not need. Besides the fact that we should find out what's the password and username, which is admin, okay? For those of you who are not too tech savvy or whatever, you can actually just read this. It should help you, but otherwise, if you follow the on-screen instructions, it should do fine as well. So this is something that you might not receive because this is the local distributor here in Singapore, the warranty card or whatever. And we have a technical support guide with all the numbers that you will never ever call. At least we don't here in Singapore. We usually just look straight for the distributor. A Cat, let's see, a Cat 5E cable, pretty short, but yeah, it's 5E. Unlike the Netgear, I believe it was rated 5, Cat 5, but it allowed gigabit transmission. So I'm not too sure if that was 5 or 5E. Just mislabeled. The cat lid, the wall Of course, this would be different depending on where you're purchasing it from, I believe. I'm purchasing from Singapore, and we use the UK style adapters. So here it is. And the power brick, which isn't too large, pretty standard. So let's take a closer look at the unit itself. Right, so yeah, it looks really like the Netgear router, right? Let's see the antennas. Slightly different. Now the build quality feels really good, right, on first touch. But of course, build quality is something you don't really care on a router because you're gonna leave it somewhere. It won't drop or break anything like that. So as you can see, it looks like a spaceship as well. So ready to take off. And there we go. Alright, so first thing we'll look at the indicators over here. Let me zoom in and focus. Okay, unfortunately, let me close these antennas. Okay, hopefully. Alright, that's much better. So of course we have all the standard LED indicators like the power, the activity LEDs for the different bands. We have not sure what that is. Not sure what that is, and of course not sure what that is as well. And two of the USB ports, the activity LED for them. Okay, so this I believe is for Wi-Fi direct, I think. This one I'm not too sure. This is to turn on and off the LED indicators if you do not want it to be shining in your room. Should you put it in your room or somewhere that you do not want to have lights, right? So taking a look at the I/O ports, we have the standard view, the internet in, and then we have 4 gigabit ports. We have a USB 3.0 port as well as a USB 2.0. We'll test the performance of that by plugging in my hard drive and see how easy it is to use. Otherwise, that's basically it, right? The power switch and the power adapter in, and that is all. Let's open up the spaceship again. Okay, so what I'll do now is that I'll pause my recording of this unboxing, and I will go do some benchmarks and comparison to give you a chart and whatnot, so you can compare it with another flagship device. And I'll give you some of my thoughts after this, right? I'll see you guys again in a very short while. I am back. Alright, so I've tested out the router a little bit, set it up, try some of the features such as the USB ports and whatnot, and then of course I took some performance numbers so I can compare and let you know. So before that, we'll talk about the whole UI and how everything was set up. It's very quick. I plugged into my internet, of course, and then I just had to head on to the routers page, which isn't 192.168.1.1. Instead it's 0.0.1, which is slightly odd. So I guess the instruction manuals is actually very helpful in this aspect. So I logged in, and then I was immediately greeted with the quick setup, right? So this setup, which you're seeing here now, is very simple. You can just follow it through, and it'll explain everything for you so that you can get your internet up and running. And right after that, I went to see some of the different UI and some of the features of the router, and it basically has all the features that you would expect from a flagship router, right? For example, your guest network, things such as bandwidth monitoring, bandwidth controlling, and of course, one of the more useful and interesting thing that most people might want to use is the USB drive. So I did mention that there are 2 ports, one USB 3.0 and one USB 2.0. I tested out the USB 3.0 one, and you can see the speeds here. The download up to 70 megabytes per second and upload of 40 megabytes per second to the drive. The drive I used was a Western Digital portable, I believe. It's a USB 3 one. A 1 terabyte drive, and the performance is pretty good, right? 70 read and 40 write is pretty decent. Do note all this is done via the gigabit connection. I connect connected directly to the router via a gigabit cable, a LAN cable that is. So yeah, the performance is really decent, and it is plug and play. Basically, I plugged it into the router, it automatically scanned it and set up everything for me to use. It's so easy. I believe this is the same for other routers as well, but as for this TP-Link, I just want to let you know that it is very simple. Alright, so that's the USB network drive. So we move on to the most important thing about the router, right? That is the performance of the router itself. I'm not going to do all the wired kind of performance because I do not have the tools. For example, how many concurrent connections and so on and so forth. It will probably be enough for all of you home users out there, right? If you're going to run a business, a small business that is, this will probably cater to your needs as well. So that is one thing, but of course the main main performance that differentiates between routers is the wireless performance. So I can compare it with one of the other flagships that is available in the market at the moment, and that is the Netgear Nighthawk X6. Yeah, so there are two test locations. Basically, one is my parents' room, which is a floor above the router. It has a ceiling as well as a wall in between. And the other one is the living room, which is a floor below, but it doesn't have any major obstructions such as a wall or anything like that, right? There is a clear path to it. So here are just some of the figures. I tested both the 2.4 GHz as well as the 5.0 GHz bands. You can see here that in terms of 2.4 GHz, the TP-Link router is pretty much on par with the Netgear. Everything is maxed out. And moving on to the living room as well, you can see that, okay, fine, the Netgear wins by quite a bit, in 5 megabytes over for download speed, but the upload speed for the TP-Link one is pretty much better as well, by 1 megabyte. So in terms of the 2.4 gigahertz the wireless performance, both the TP-Link Archer C3200 as well as the Netgear Nighthawk X6 are pretty much on par. But when we go to the 5.0 GHz bands, you can see that the Netgear wins by quite a bit. Especially you can see here in the parents' room, the download speed for the Nighthawk X6 wins by about 50 megabytes for download and about 14 megabytes for upload. And in the living room test as well, the Netgear Nighthawk wins, but not that much this time around, but it still wins the TP-Link Archer C3200 by a margin. So in summary, this router, you must know that because of this performance, it isn't so bad because it is pretty much cheaper than most of the routers. It's definitely cheaper than the Nighthawk X6. And what I did was that I compared the numbers in terms of performance and then the price difference, and they're pretty much dollar for dollar, right? Dollar for performance. So you are paying less, but you get a little bit less performance as well. The other thing is that besides the wireless performance, everything else is pretty much the same. So for those of you who are looking for a router in this that provides such technology as well as features, and you want to keep it, say, slightly cheaper, if you have a slightly tighter budget, you can go for this TP-Link Archer C3200 router, and you will definitely enjoy every bit of it. Otherwise, I guess that's all for my mini review. If you have any questions or anything, do let me know via the comments section, or you can PM me, whatever. Otherwise, if you find this video very informative, do give it a like, and if you want to see more of such videos, do subscribe to the channel, and I will see you guys again very soon.